Ohio State beats Texas 28-14 in what was a thriller there at the end. Jack Sawyer scoop and score on the final play there. Or I say final play. Texas had a couple more. Caleb Downs picked the ball off. What am I talking about? But Jack Sawyer, the scoop and score that ended is what I probably should have said. Joe, your thoughts on how this game went down?
Yeah, the Jack Sawyer play that you're referring to, that felt like it was the final play because it just completely took all of the momentum that Texas almost had to tie the ball game. Maybe it goes to overtime. There was so much that could have happened on that final drive in these final minutes. It was the epitome of Texas and Texas's season, and every single criticism that we have dealt towards them. Quinn Ewers' inability to protect the football. I even tweeted this out. I said that the reason why Texas is still in this is because he hadn't turned the ball over. But I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming in the back of my head. I'm like, something doesn't feel right. There's no way that he gets through this game without turning the ball over. And if he does, they win the ball game. And lo and behold, he has an awful fumble. An awful fumble. Gets completely stripped out of his hands. If he threw that thing out of the back of the end zone, they're still alive. There's still a way for them to get the ball back and to tie it.
Well, hold on. I'm with you on Ewers and ultimately trying to do something. But here's the real truth on that, at least the way that I see it.
Okay.
4th down and 9, 4th and goal from the 9, he's got to make something happen. Sawyer makes a big play, okay? Like, he's got to have a little bit of more time to be able to complete something. But
throw it out of bounds, though, the minute that you feel pressure.
I get it. I'm not excusing that at all. Okay. You're right. The turnover, it cannot happen. He had a fumble earlier in the game. That also cannot happen. I'm with you. But 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. 2nd and goal, Joe, from the 1-yard line. You're going to have to – I know that Ohio State versus Penn State happened the way and ended the way that it ended. You're going to have to beat me with Arch Manning going under center and hitting a quarterback sneak to tie a football game up. I'm sorry. Like, look, this is the epitome of what I said in the entire build-up to this one. Every single time. I don't give two Rudy Poos. I really don't give two Rudy Poos who Texas plays. They will play up and down to the level of their competition. Now, we'll talk about Ohio State, though, Joe. They had 9 penalties for 75 yards. I think that had a lot to do with Texas is being so aggressive, them getting out of control. They matched them athlete for athlete. That's why they're committing these penalties. Like, it's not as if that Texas isn't right there athlete for athlete with them.
Right.
But, Joe, I got it. If we're going to already start about the play calling at the end, you run a toss play on 2nd and goal from the 1?
Well, so that was what I put out there. You're going up against the team that was actually doing a pretty good job of stopping you between the tackles, and we know has an elite run defense. You bring in your jumbo package and call the most predictable rushing play. You bring in your power back, and it's like, we're just going to try and outman them and outmuscle them. You killed them in space the whole second half, and that was the decision to go with there. And then everybody and their mother knew that you were calling a freaking pitch. That is the most predictable secondary call when you can't win in the short yardage area between the, running in the A gap. Everybody knows that you call that shit.
Well, not even that. Where did their 2 touchdowns come from? What did it come from?
Wheel routes.
And I get that you're at the 1-yard line, but you've been having success all night throwing the ball to the running backs out of the backfield. I don't know. I can look it up right here very quickly. But let's look at the box score. Joe Wisner, had 6 catches. Jaden Blue had 5 catches. They led the team in receiving.
Like, call a swing route or something.
I'm with you there. But let's get into the game. I mean, look, I that is, it's our complete instant reaction right after the game.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the entire game? Because, man, look, Ohio State comes out, punches Texas in the mouth. And they kept holding, Texas kept holding on defensively. But, man, I got to be real with you, Joe. As soon as Arch Manning came in the game and he got that 4th down and he ran the football, brother, they were a different football team. They were a completely different football team, and they kept it close. I guess, how did you see the whole game playing out outside the ending?
Yeah, and I think that this was one of those games where the momentum was swinging back and forth between both teams. And I'm going to kind of save thoughts on Ohio State in a second. but they lost that juice that they had coming off of the Oregon game. That energy and that intensity that they had that we talked about so much leading up to this matchup, it was completely pulled out of them. It was just gone. They were playing the same level of sloppy and inconsistent as we have seen from them in some of their worst performances this year. And that was what allowed Texas to take full advantage of that. So credit to Texas for, up until that final awful drive, for them to say, we're going to just feed off of our running backs. They realized that there was so much focus on preventing guys like Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden from getting open that it was allowing for Wisner and for Blue to get open out of the backfield on those wheel routes. And then that opened up for them to run outside rushing plays to then create even more yardage. So there was good decision-making up until that awful situation, and Ohio State's defense stepping up where they needed to, not to rehash the conversation we just had. But this was a situation where either team could have won. And a lot of that came down to Ohio State having really silly mistakes in parts, the interception to start the second half, and all the penalties that you mentioned.
Well, look, the whole time you were talking about that, I wanted to interrupt you, but I couldn't. Just to give you the point that you made in the preview of this, okay, or we made.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, everybody was counting out Texas. We weren't really considering counting them out necessarily, okay?
Right.
But what could Texas do to win? They had to get pressure after Will Howard. Newsflash. I mean, Joe, I saw a completely different game than maybe some that I'm seeing on Twitter here. Texas's defensive front absolutely dominated Ohio State in crucial situations.
Yes.
I don't think people I think what has happened with Texas, okay, and is people look at the game outcomes and don't watch them in game and know the capability of what they can hit. Joe, I got to be real. I don't want to say Ohio State lost any juice necessarily, because I think they faced one of the best defenses in the country tonight. If I'm just being point blank honest, the last time a team could get after their rear end was Michigan from an internal standpoint. Well, it happened again tonight. And look, man, you want to talk about paying kids NIL coming out of high school and you not wanting to do it? Colin Simmons just erased every bit of that for every team around the country when it comes to paying dudes 5-star, bona fide 5 stars out of high school. That kid went off tonight. Joe, I thought that Ohio State, for what it's worth, got in a battle. The last couple of times we saw them get into a battle, they lost. They lost. Like when they weren't out early and landing haymakers, and they got into a real fist fight with someone that can hang in there, they would lose the game. Tonight they didn't. I'm not taking anything remotely close away from Ohio State and what they accomplished late, because that Texas team that I saw tonight, quite honestly, defensively is one of, if not the best defense in moments and times in the country. That front seven is elite, man. Very elite. But here's the thing that kept them in the game. Joe, if and I'm previewing a little bit here, and I'm not going to do that yet, but if Notre Dame can get after him, which they've shown that they can get after pressure, I mean, that has been their Achilles heel. But, man, I got to go to this late, Joe, in the fourth quarter. I got to. Will Howard on that long scoring touchdown drive. 4th and 2, the 20-yard run. I know you tweeted this. He Daniel Jones'd himself. But,
he tripped up a little.
But, man, though, I keep saying this every week about Ohio State. I feel like they have full confidence in that kid. He made some bad throws. I'll give you that. He put some dots in there early. But after the 20-yard run, Juckins scores. Okay, I mean, before that run, Joe, he completed 3 first downs on that drive to get there. So, I mean, like, he was clutch in that final drive when they needed him to get the ball down the field. I mean, I was really, really impressed. And by the way, remember the false start? Like, remember the false start? Okay, so 3rd down, they have a false start, and he checks it down knowing what his coach is going to do on 4th. Great play calling, great execution by Will Howard late. I know he was up and down some, but I thought he played a damn good football game too.
Yeah, there's still overall shakiness and some of the concerns that I've had for him and the interception that he threw plays into that. But here is the ultimate biggest thing, and I think it negatively impacted his performance.
Pressure in his face?
Well, no, not that. What was the number one thing, Blake, that we talked about leading into this for Ohio State, what they needed to do to win the game? It was play to their identity, play to their strengths, play to getting Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith the ball early and often. Jeremiah Smith, 1 reception for 3 yards. Emeka Egbuka, 5 for 51.
And he had 3 catches on that opening drive.
Yeah, and then was non-existent. Right. And if it wasn't for Carnell Tate stepping up to the occasion and playing as well as he did, which he didn't play great. He had that one play where he dropped the touchdown on the slant on the first drive, but he had a strong game. This is the craziest part about all of this, and I think where we saw the most mortality of Ohio State and what they are as a team that was displayed from this performance is that there is a way to remove Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. It's not easy, but
you got to get immense pass rush.
Right. As much as Texas did a great job in coverage of preventing opportunities for them to get the ball, there needs to be criticism dealt to Chip Kelly for whatever reason getting away from what works. And I want to look at the All-22 copy and see what led to only him Jeremiah Smith only having 1 reception for 3 yards.
Coverage. I thought Kurt did a good job of explaining it during the telecast. Taff is literally either they're putting a linebacker underneath him in zone coverage, or they're putting a safety on that side, okay, and they're bracketing the entire time, and they're jamming him off the line. What was the catch that he had? It's in the flat. They're just trying to get him a touch. I'm with you on not getting any more. But here's the truth, man. They double dude all day long. And here's the God's honest truth. Then you got to make them pay. I don't mind continuing to attack other guys in one-on-one coverage, but you got to make them pay to free him up. But
wait, if they're doubling, just a really quick interjection. If they're doubling Jeremiah Smith, then that means Emeka Egbuka should be open, who only had 50 yards.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But even that, I'm going to be careful how I say this. I told you not to go after Makuba, and you almost paid the price for it when you did go to Jeremiah Smith, right? So, again, I'm going to keep saying that kid's he's so good, dude.
By the way, your TikTok, I clipped you saying that. Your TikTok of you saying that has 100,000 views on it.
Okay,
so.
well, I'm glad.
Texas fans like you all of a sudden again.
Well, dude, I keep telling you this.
He's a player. I like him too.
Absolutely ridiculous. But I need to go look at that now. I kind of feel good about myself. Okay. But the bracket coverage on him eliminated that. Now, I'm going to walk back a statement and double down. I said that they had the ability to I've seen wide receiver cores that look like this, right? Like I've seen it. Yeah. When Jamar Chase or Jets or whoever got doubled, the other dude went off. Emeka and Carnell cannot have those big drops in key situations.
Yep.
So after the second quarter, I tracked them. And I don't know what they had in the first quarter, even if they had one. Both of them had 2 drops. Like, I mean, that can't – 4 drops. Like, that's in high key situations on third down. By the way, the entire second quarter, here's Ohio State's 3rd and 9s. Joe, they were 3rd and 11, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. I mean, like, you're putting them in bad situations over and over again, too.
It was just, I think, the biggest thing for me, because like Texas's season is done, and we can continue to. It's kind of even funny. There's almost like not even much left to like really dig them for, because they played a good game. But the flip side of this, all the negatives that
they're not living up to their potential.
Well, right. This is all the negatives that we talked about all year long. The Texas fans got so upset with us for bringing up and saying that like these things will catch up to you. They caught up to them and they lost the football game. Couldn't run the ball and finish and really put their foot on Ohio State's throat when it was tied and only finished 58 rushing yards. But the Ohio State side of things, which is now the most important angle.
One more thing. Let me get one more thing on Texas very quickly. Okay, the last thing I'd say about Texas, you just brought up a big thing there, finish. Joe, they couldn't even finish out the first half.
Yeah.
The end of the first half with the screen, and then the scoop and score at the end. Literally, not being able to finish is literally what lost you this game.
Yes.
I digress.
Yeah.
I digress, but continue.
Now, the final thought that I had with this, and for the Ohio State angle, because they're living to play for a national championship, the sloppy version of Ohio State shows a lot of signs of beatability. And I think that we originally, and I'm just saying this is not trying to go in here with the whole homer take of like Notre Dame's going to beat them. I'm not there. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to completely disrespect an opponent and think that ridiculously far ahead. But what I'm getting at here is that we kind of all assumed, and I think a lot of people assumed, that if Ohio State got to the national championship game, that they were going to smoke Texas and that they would walk into the national championship game and that they would smoke Notre Dame or Penn State, whoever they play, because they have this newfound lease on life and they were playing like there was no tomorrow. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video that we taped, Blake, that energy is not with them anymore. It just feels like that there a little bit of doubt started to creep in. And not that I think that they can't regain said energy. It just felt like a very different version of Ohio State. And it made me the entire game watching this. I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, this isn't the team that we watched last week. This isn't the team that we watched against Tennessee. What happened? Why does it feel so different? Because that version would have killed them.
In fairness, that Tennessee game was a lot closer than the final score. But I understand what you're Joe. I mean, with right the end of the first quarter, it was a 7-point game.
Yeah,
Remember,
but they still.
I get it.
They still dogged them. But like, if I didn't tell you the score and how the game played out, and I told you that Ohio State held Texas to 58 rushing yards, we would have guessed that they killed them,
I would have.
Right?
Either that or they went full Georgia in the SEC championship game, which it did. I mean, here's the thing, though. We talked about in the preview, and Ohio State did not stop this either. And I'm interested to see if Denbrock, and we'll talk about that at another point. But, Joe, the screen game was the extension of the running game. And I'd love to know how many yards they had there. I think the 58 yards, for what it's worth, is a little bit how do I want to say this? You couldn't run the ball, and I'm with you. But there also comes a part when you're throwing the ball, Joe, the backs caught 13 passes tonight. I get the wheel routes, but I mean, it's still a lot of extension of the running game. For Ohio State, man, I'm not ready to go with the sloppiness. This is what I feel about Texas and the opponent that they just played. Joe, I think it's one of the better teams that they've played defensively. Right. And listen, you're going to have situations where if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, we were texting about this during the game. Joe, how many times did we text saying Ohio State's biggest enemy tonight was not Texas. It was Ohio State. Yeah. They shot themselves in the foot.
That's what I'm getting at.
What if they don't create those penalties, though? Like in the fourth quarter, you had a false start, the one right before the Howard long run. Okay, you had multiple penalties throughout the game. I'm with you. What I'm trying to admit here is I think that Texas just played the outright best game that they could play, and Ohio State beat them. That's how I see it. But Ohio State, for me, though, Joe, when I look at them, okay, the O-line is going to have to learn how to protect better. And Howard's going to have to get the ball out quicker. They pretty much eliminate – by the third quarter, Joe, I mean, they had pretty much eliminated Jeremiah Smith. You shouldn't even be looking in its general directions, what led to a sack in the third quarter, too. I just think that if you're going to face Notre Dame, if they can get pressure on you, things will get interesting, and they will get very interesting quick. It's just when I felt like this time for them versus the past, that when they got met with adversity, they overcame. So many times in the Ryan Day era, when they had hit legitimately hit adversity, they could not overcome that hump. Tonight, I had a different feel of it. I've never felt once that they were going to lose that game.
No, I never felt that they were going to lose it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is just it felt like that they were off. And it's not like that's like a really deep thought. Just were they super sloppy?
Were they off, or did they just face a really good team that played up to their potential? because I don't think that.
No, actually, I'm going to go back. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Oh no, I'm not necessarily trying to disagree with you, or even that I do disagree with you. I just feel like that was the best Texas I had ever seen all year, and they lost to a better team. Does that make sense? Like I thought, Joe, that they were flawless in a lot of situations.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is that Texas might have played their best ball, but for the situations that they were in where it felt like they were about to regain the momentum in the game, they did something stupid. Like the perfect example was in the third quarter with 2:30 to go, Will Howard took a huge sack, and that was right after the personal foul for the late blocking attempt by the Ohio State offensive lineman. Like that was a really good example where it was like, all right, we're about to go down, move the ball down on this drive. And I think they had a really nice opening rush by Travion Henderson on that play, and it got completely derailed. And that is all of this. I mean, I just simply put down in the second quarter a lot of Ohio State penalties, and I think at that point there were 4 for 40 midway through the second quarter.
Yeah, that's not good.
That version of Ohio State, the flawless version of Ohio State, has been what has been unstoppable. The flawed version shows a lot of signs of being beatable, which just seems really generic and stupid to say, but I think I'm hoping people understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's another thing in this too, Joe. You talked about the second quarter, okay? The third downs. Texas 3 of 11, Ohio State 3 and 8, meaning the down and distance. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 plays on third down. You ran 30 plays. So again, a third of your plays are going to come on there. I mean, look, one team executed when they needed to, but you're right. I mean, we'll see. And we'll definitely talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame in that matchup. Final thing for me about Ohio State, man. I just did the Juckins block. You know, remember when Juckins
that was a block.
A massive block. You know, I was thinking about that. That incorporate or to mentally, number one, Juckins when he left Ole Miss, all these Ole Miss fans saying, "Oh, well, we didn't want him as a bad locker room guy." That play does not show a bad locker room guy. Secondly, I just felt like I get what you're saying. If they can cut out the sloppiness, no. We've seen both sides of them. That's the damn truth. We know every shade of what Ohio State can give you. Yeah. I mean, you know the good, bad, and the